today's show, we discuss, should all films and programs be cast by any actor of any gender, colour and race?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Pasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya.
Hello, audience.
Hello to the audience.
No, I beat you. I thought I'd give you a sporting chance, but I don't have to, Tony. Never forget, I don't have to give you a sporting chance.
No, you don't.
So I think we're going to have to come to a more reasonable agreement now. I think even you recognize that the time has come for us to settle this like two gentlemen, and we're going to have this done in a more gentlemanly and urbane fashion, I think. But anyway, hello, audience.
Hello, audience. He said it. Hooray. I won't ask you in future. There you go. You've heard it live on air. But let me carry on for those of you who are joining our show for the very first time. I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello. Are you keeping safe and well?
Thank you. Hi, Tony. I guess I am. Same old. Still here.
Cool.
Sweet embrace of death yet to eludes me, but never mind.
Stop saying that. Oh dear. Right, now today's show in particular, this is an interesting one because more and more Hollywood, as well as the British media and a British version of Hollywood, if there is such a thing, are casting more people of ethnic minorities. And the question has been asked is this a good thing when you're talking about certain parts in history? So I'll hand over to you to see what your view on this subject is.
My view is that it depends. That's my answer. Should we change color of actors, the skin color, the race, maybe even their gender, the orientation? And my answer is it depends. And I'll tell you why, because in thinking about this topic, I realized that Nick Fury in the Avengers, as played by Samuel L. Jackson, in the comics, was white, but I never read the comics. So it was no skin off my nose with it. There was no jarring feeling when I started watching the Avengers. I believe it was Iron Man all those years ago, was the very first of the Marvel Avengers movies. And Nick Fury, if he was in that one, I can't remember if he was or not. But if he was in that movie, or the first time I met him, it didn't jar for me because I didn't read the comics, so I didn't know that I was looking at someone else. A different race, an actor of a different race playing that movie. But where I did feel jarred by Samuel L. Jackson was when he played Mace Windu in the Star Wars, the first trilogy. Was he in the second or the third? When he was in the second, wasn't he?
No. I think he actually appeared in did he appear in the very
episode
first
2?
one?
I'm saying.
Oh, episode 2 in chronological order. Yeah.
Yes, in chronological order, and he just didn't strike me as a Jedi Knight. It just really, every time he was on screen, I squirmed. Now, I first of all, I don't believe that the actor himself felt the role. I really think that he felt out of place because that's the impression that I got. So whether it was a case of bad acting from him, or whether it was a case that I just didn't think that Jedi Knights were black because, having grown up with the original Star Wars, I don't think there was any hint that Jedi Knights were black. I don't know why. I just assumed that they were white or of different races. There's nothing actually why a Jedi Knight couldn't be black. But he came onto the screen just like, oh, what the hell is this? It's just very uncomfortable for me.
Well, could that just have been the fact that he may have been miscast?
Yes, I'm saying that he's
not him as his skin color has got nothing to do with it.
The skin color was it may or may not have had something to do with the fact that I had a certain expectation because I can't remember his real name now. Yes, Orlando. Somebody is that is that the name of the character or the name of the actor? The
Orlando Bloom. No.
yeah, that's Orlando Bloom. The black guy who's
in the Star Wars.
In the Star Wars, in the first series, he helped them to escape. Remember? They went
yes, Lando.
Lando, not Orlando.
Cardassian or Cardassian. I can't remember.
Yes, Lando. Lando was black, and his role was, nobody complained about that. So I think it was my expectations, maybe, that I just, for some reason.
Why did you think that though? Because it wasn't like Star Wars had avoided. Because there were anyway. So what difference did it make with Mace Windu?
It just felt wrong. It just for myself, it simply felt wrong. It just knocked me out of that sort of universe for a while. Just like, oh, what's this? But I think it's very much a case that you put your finger in that he was miscast. Because, I still think he had if you like it, I mean, it's a little bit insulting, but I don't know how else to put it. He still had like a Brooklyn accent, if you like. Well, I don't know where he comes from, but it was like a black American accent.
Right.
And that just doesn't work with a Jedi Knight for me.
I think me personally, I have no issue whatsoever with it's. There's actually a term that Hollywood use now. It's called colorblind casting.
Okay.
So basically, it is where skin color, background, race has no bearing on the casting of an actor who's playing a particular part, and it shouldn't do. Let's be honest. Now, if you're trying to depict a historical event which happened in history that you want to ensure people are taken on board and understand what's happened in that event, then you have to be more conscious of who you're casting in particular roles. But if it's a fantasy or something which is fictional in storyline in Hollywood or wherever, then really Hollywood should be more reflective of who they cast. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
You had me until you used the word should. That's where you fell off the rails for me. Could is fine. They can if they want to. It's fine. But you're saying should, which means that you're now going for, if you like, equality of outcome rather than equality of opportunities.
Well, how can you determine equality of opportunity if there's not enough? Do you see the?
What do you mean by not enough? So what would be enough? That's the issue. What would be enough? If a Hollywood actor says, I tried out and I think I'm not getting parts because I'm black or because I'm a woman, or then you can say, okay, we have issues here. But if people are getting parts that other people feel they're right for, without wondering about their identity, or how did you express it just now? Colorblind, did you say? What was the expression?
Colorblind. It's colorblind casting.
Okay, so
instead of color conscious casting. There's a difference between the two. Colorblind casting is exactly that. You don't look at the skin color or the background of the actor you're wanting to cast.
I don't see how you wouldn't be able to. It's not a voice thing. It's James Earl Jones was the voice of Darth Vader.
It didn't matter what color he was, did it?
Yeah, exactly. He was the voice. This is my whole point. He was the color of Darth Vader, and it really, really worked.
Oh, phenomenal.
Phenomenal. But if you turn James Bond into Idris Elba, that's not going to work for me. It might work for other people, but for me, it's not going to work. Because I read the books, I know the character. So what you're actually doing is you said it's okay that they shouldn't mess with the historical character. Not all historical characters are historical characters. Some are historical in the sense that we have lived with them for a long time. Doctor Who, for instance, has been going for 53 years, if not more, longer.
Yeah.
So we've known this character. So in a sense, that is a historical character. With our acquaintance with that character has gone on for too long. Like the Flintstones. I grew up with the Flintstones. I used to one of my little treats was to be able to stay up on whenever the Flintstones was and watch the Flintstones. And so if they certainly turn them into Chinese or something, I'd be like, what the hell is this? Because I grew up, see, what I mean by expectations, you're messing with my historical understanding of those characters.
Yeah.
Now, if you come up with new characters, you don't call them the Flintstones, but they are Stone Age, they live in the Stone era age. They do very similar things, but they're called the Li Wangs or something. That's perfectly okay. No one who's going to complain. But what we're talking about here seems to be almost like a subversion. Subversion, no, that's not right. There's a proper word for that. It seems to be almost subversion or something else, isn't it?
So you,
like subverse. Yeah, actually, I think I'm right. Subversion. It seems to be like a subversion of people's. Ryan Johnston said it there. Subvert their expectations or something. It seems to be almost malicious. It's almost like hooliganism, like a cultural hooliganism and iconoclasty. It's like, why do you have to do this? Why do you have to take known characters and mess with them? If you really want this colorblind thing of invent new series and then jam pack it with whatever you want to jam pack it with, invent new films, new series, new vehicles, who's going to complain? We don't know these people. So if you want to invent a new universe, a new Star Wars type universe, nothing to do with Star Wars, no Jedi, nothing. You've gone and you've done
So you basically, your argument is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're happy for color in any aspect of new productions. So any new films, any new series, anything is literally color, race, background has no bearing. But you just want to draw a line. Anything that's already gone before, we leave as is. So if they're going to do more of the past, any other show, we keep it with the gender, the color, the actors, the background the same. So that's not altered. That's what you're saying, effectively.
Yes, unless you're doing it as some kind of novel, not even novel. You're doing it because you're clever and because you see a twist. An example for you, Elementary television series. Did you watch it?
No, I've never seen that, so I can't.
Okay,
Don't give any spoilers though. Go on.
It's 7 episodes. You can't give spoilers. It's not that kind of
Oh, okay.
It's not that kind of a thing. Elementary is a take on Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
He lives in New York for a start.
Okay.
And he lives in New York in relatively modern times. I think the latest episode, the last series was 2018 or something. Okay. Holmes is a Chinese woman. She's Dr. Holmes. She married Mr. Holmes, and she's a doctor, so she's Dr. Holmes.
Okay.
And Mr. Holmes died, or I can't remember exactly what happened to him. And she had to look after Sherlock because she was a therapist. And Sherlock's father hired her to look after his son, who was an addict in this series.
Yes.
See? And then, together they start, working together. And
so that's the continuity of a theme, but you have license to change it.
Right. It's all made so. You don't sit there going, no, hang on, Holmes wasn't a female. Holmes wasn't Chinese. It's okay. It's done in such a way that it's not political and not politicized. It's not they're trying to fill some kind of blooming. That's why I said to you when you said should, I said, oh, no, that's where you lost me, because they weren't trying to tick a box.
Yeah.
It was a new take on that character.
Yes.
Yeah, and that made it. That's fine. That's a new take on it. It was quite exciting.
Okay.
I actually enjoy watching it. But when you make Valkyrie Tessa Thompson, when you make Valkyrie in Marvel, when you make that Tessa Thompson, that's just annoying. First of all, I have a personal grudge against the actress. Because she was pudgy. Yeah, she was pudgy. She didn't look like a Valkyrie. She doesn't look like she could fight her way out of a paper bag.
Oh, that's really disingenuous.
It's not disingenuous.
I think she's lovely.
I'm not saying lovely. I'm not saying she's ugly. I said she can fight. She didn't look. She was pudgy. She didn't look like a fighter. She didn't look like a Valkyrie. She just, I mean, apart from the fact that she goes the wrong race and everything, why would you put her into that? The last of the Valkyrie be somebody who is racially inaccurate? How's that supposed to sit with people who know what they're doing? We're not all idiots. That's the problem in Hollywood. They think we're all, numpties. No, I'm not going to insult numpties. The thing we're all doofuses who are historically unaware. There was this perfect actress for the role, Catherine, what's her name? Catherine Wynn something, W-Y-N. I can't remember properly.
Okay.
She was the in the Vikings. She was Ragnar's wife in Vikings. Can you remember her name?
No, I've never watched Vikings. So.
You haven't watched Vikings?
No, I haven't watched Vikings. No.
How do you draw breath in the morning? What do you mean you've never watched Vikings? You can't go around saying things like that. You're lucky that.
Well, ask our audience who will give us the name, because that name I don't know. Catherine, you're going to have to find the name.
Winnick, W-I-N-N-I-C-K. Catherine Winnick.
Oh, Catherine Winnick. Okay.
Yes. And she was perfect. She's been doing this show where she was fighting. She's actually a black belt, taekwondo black belt. And I think she's a teacher. She teaches taekwondo and everything. So,
right.
Cool. Yeah, so she's, she seriously knows her.
Catherine Winnick. And how do you spell her name? I'm just going to have a look for her. Canadian actor. I found her.
Yes, W-I-N-N-I-C-K.
Okay.
This woman was perfect for the role. She looks like a blooming Valkyrie. She can fight like a blooming Valkyrie. She's a right flipping race for it. That would have just been the most fantastic.
She's Canadian and she's white. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, she looks like a Valkyrie. She looks like a historical Valkyrie. And she can fight like one because she was like in the Vikings. So even in my mental association would have been easy to put her to see her as a Viking because she's already played for 5 years. She played a Viking, the Viking princess.
Do we even know she even applied for this part? Do we even know she even went for it? How do you know how many characters even applied for the role? So they could have
twisted her arm. I'm just trying to say that she was just so perfect for it.
Right. So you mean Hollywood should have seeked her out?
She should have twisted her arm or even sent the mafia. She said, no, this is you have to act. I'm sure she would have been more than delighted to. And not Tessa Thompson for crying out loud. I'm crying out loud. I mean, if you're going to do this white color blind thing, at least get somebody who even looks like they could fight. No, I ain't going. It was so annoying. It just really upset me. And yet, the rest of the movie, this was not Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Was it Ragnarok?
Yeah, Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yeah, because of the guy, Waiko Taiti.
Oh, yes. But he was the director and he actually appeared.
He was the director, he appeared, and his character, this made me laugh all the time.
Oh, I know.
So I would have made that one of my most favorite. Did I really say most favorite? Apologies, audience.
My favorite.
That would have been one of my favorite movies, if only that horrid casting problem.
So that was your only thing that you had a gripe of that movie because they cast Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie.
Yeah, it spoils everything. It's like I gave you a fantastic piece of cake, I make this wonderful cake for you, but a piece of poo in it. Well, frankly, you're not going to want to eat the cake. It's going to spoil everything.
I think you're overreacting on a.
No, I'm telling you, this is how I honestly, truly felt about it, and I still feel about it. Maybe it's even contributed to the fact that I no longer watch Marvel movies. It's probably it started with that. I started being unable to watch these things. Okay. It's just too annoying, and I'd rather not be aggravated by it.
Okay, there's a couple of shows and films which I'm going to just touch on. Which there's rumors only, because this is still before they've actually launched. For instance, there's two in particular. Now, most people are familiar with James Bond. We've touched on that. And there's rumor, we haven't seen it yet, but there's rumor that James Bond character is going to be replaced with a black female, agent. Yeah. Now, let's get things.
That's inaccurate. That is inaccurate.
Hold on. We're jumping here. Now, what?
No, you're wrong. Nobody is saying he's going to be replaced. James Bond is going to be replaced by a black female. There's not going to be a Jane Bond.
No, there's not a Jane Bond.
Oh, exactly.
What's happening in the film? What's actually happening? It's my understanding. I've had a little read through. the character is a separate agent, nothing to do with James Bond.
Yeah, exactly.
But all that's happening is James Bond. I hope we're not sending spoilers out here, but James Bond is stepping back. James himself is stepping back, and the 007, his name, is being handed to the female character. What's wrong with that? Because you're not changing James Bond. James Bond is still remaining white and male. But now we've got another agent who's a standalone agent in her own right, called something entirely different. But all that's happening is he's retiring, so 007 has to be filled. It's just a name, not for an actor. It's just a tagline, effectively.
A designation or something.
Yes, exactly. And so that's now being handed to someone else. And it just so happens that it's a very good, competent agent who happens to be female and black. That's irrelevant. This is exactly what you've actually alluded to in your earlier argument, where you said with Elementary, where they carried the story forward, and we've now got a Chinese actor who is female.
Lucy Liu.
Yeah.
You probably know her.
Yeah, I do. She's very good. So she's taken the role forward. It's changed. So this is exactly what they're doing with James Bond. And that the story itself allows that portrayal. Now, whether people will still go to watch James Bond, if that's going to be called James Bond in future, I don't know, because they may not call it James Bond. They may call it something. They may just call it 007. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, you've gotten a whole lot wrong out of the stick, which is perfectly understandable because you haven't even watched Vikings. So I think I got your measure now. I think I got your measure now, Tony. It's like, oh dear. All right. So even the audience has your measure now. You don't. Let me just say one thing before I continue. This was short digression. Do you know, you really shouldn't run around saying things like that in public. Ask me next time. If you haven't watched something, send me a private note on this Zoom chat, and I'll tell you whether you should admit to it in public or keep it very, very quiet indeed.
I've watched all these things, and James Bond.
No. I'm sorry. No, I mean, frankly, no. Okay, just no. It's not acceptable. No. I mean, it's almost like being told I haven't watched The Sound of Music or something. It's just like, oh no. Don't know. I haven't read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. No.
In other words, I'm not qualified to have this discussion if I haven't even got.
No, I mean, now we forgive you. But if I should have revealed it to the audience, there might be members of the audience who've got, dodgy hearts or who were holding hot cups of coffee. You could have really discombobulated them. So they could have been driving. You don't just ram it down people's throat. I haven't watched Vikings. I mean, people are entitled to fair warning before they're told things like that. So anyway, okay.
I will bow to your better judgment. I will actually now make a point of watching that.
And on behalf of the TNT talk show, we're very sorry if we did startle you and something terrible. We're very sorry, we didn't mean it. Now, back to Lashana Lynch, which is the name of the actress.
Okay.
And James Bond. Do let's say this had happened in the 70s with Roger Moore. Roger Moore, because there was a time when he was looking kind of craggy. Let's be honest, and we all knew that he was past it as James Bond.
Well, actually, sorry to interject, but in that time when Roger Moore was filming, his main adversary was Grace Jones, if you remember.
She was a sidekick. No, she wasn't his main adversary. She was just the sidekick of the evil guy who was Drax, if you remember. So no, he wasn't the main adversary. But if you think about that, that was The Living Daylights, by the way. So if you think about that film, if he had retired and said he had retired, and someone like Grace Jones was going to come along and take the 007 moniker, that would have been okay, surprisingly, because that would have been not a better, before people sort of lose their rag with Ty. I think Ty has lost his marbles, because it's not a permanent thing. We understand that this isn't permanent. They're not reimagining James Bond.
Right.
Okay, it's just this one story. So I'm assuming that he comes back out of retirement, or they're going to reboot James Bond or something or the other. No, James Bond is not becoming Jane Bond. There's nothing. And then there will still be a male James Bond in the James Bond series. It's not changing in any way. Do you see the difference?
Well, isn't that the case with this new latest one with Daniel Craig? Isn't that what the direction they're actually going down?
Yeah, he's retired.
Yeah.
He goes into retirement, and then she comes in and takes over 007, what do they call it, handle or moniker or whatever it's called, designation. Yes, but going forward, they're already looking for the next James Bond, and they're looking for a man. And look, there's not going to be a woman. So somehow they're going to bring it back out of retirement, or they're going to reboot the series or something or the other, and that's where we're headed. And if they had done that back in the time of Roger Moore, that for some reason he's going on retirement, he attracted all. Well, he sort of did it when it went from Roger Moore to what's his first name? Is it Roger Dalton? Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton, who replaced him. Yes.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton was retired at one stage, or he left because he went on a personal revenge spree, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, he did. So if he had been replaced by a female, the 007, no one had said anything because it wasn't box ticking. Remember I said earlier that one of the things that gets me about the Tessa Thompson one, as opposed to the Elementary, is that in Elementary is a reimagining, and in the Tessa Thompson one, it's just box ticking. It's just virtue signaling. They don't mean it. It's nonsense. It's an insult, actually, and that's what really gets you. That we're being preached at by these people in Hollywood.
What's the term that was used before? Is woke.
Woke. It's woke. It's
because
wokeism.
You've heard the term whitewashing.
Yes.
Which used to be done. Are we saying now that this is blackwashing?
It is blackwashing.
Putting the names in just to make, like you said, tick boxes.
Yes, and it's like it's the worst. The worst offenders here on our shores in the UK are, is the BBC, which, let's say it again, the BBC needs to be defunded. They've got this show what is it called now? They've got this horrible show, which is, to me, unwatchable. Troy.
Troy?
Yeah, Troy. The Troy, the Hellenic, Troy, okay. Greek Troy.
Right. I'm going to say this now. I haven't watched that either.
No sensible person has. It's called Troy, and it's got David Gyasi, Gyasi. Who's a black person. He's got it as Achilles. What are you doing? He's a historical figure. Well, historical.
Yeah, you see, this is what I mean. This is where they're playing.
But it's the Greeks. The Greeks never thought that Achilles was black. If they wanted a black person, I mean, they knew black people. If they wanted a black person in their mythology, they'd have put one in there. And then when you make Achilles black, it kind of makes it like, all right, this is not the Greek mythology I'm looking at. If they were all black actors, this is the strange thing about this. It's about perception.
Yeah.
If it was Greek mythology as done by Nigerians in what is now called Nollywood, which is Nolly, like Hollywood.
Right. Hollywood, Bollywood, now Nollywood.
There's Hollywood, Nollywood, Bollywood.
Oh, wow.
And I think there's a couple of other woods. I think there's one in East Africa. I don't know what it's called.
Is Japan Jollywood?
Steady on, Tony. I mean, have you seen the anime and everything? It's very weird. So that's a bit too close to the bone, man. Elstree, is that Ellswood in the UK? Anyway, I'm not really sure.
Oh, right.
Yes, the Elstree crowd. And I don't know where James Bond.
It is. It's in Surrey, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't remember the studio name, but Ellswood.
No, Elstree. I'm telling you, it's Elstree. Elstree Studios.
Elstree Studios. Oh, okay.
Yes, I think. If it was done by Nollywood, and it was obviously all black actors, then we would just say, yeah, that's fine. It's being done by these people.
Why can't we say that with the BBC? It's just being done by these people.
Because they are white people, so you have enough white people to go round. You can actually make it historically accurate. But if you can't make it historically accurate, when Shakespeare has been done in China, when it's been done in Japan, when it's been done in Latin America, the actors are obviously all going to be white. They can't fill those places with historically accurate actors. And it's fine. because you will just go in and go, oh, okay, I'm in Japan. It's going to be Japanese actors. That's how they perform, and then it's okay. We know what we're looking at.
Aren't you just undermining your own argument?
I'm not. I'm saying that I started by saying it's a difficult thing, that this is how we are, that our expectations have to be met. My expectation in watching a Western made film about Greek mythology is that I'm going to see historically accurate actors, the actors who fit the historically accurate mold.
Yeah, but you just said Greek mythology. That's mythology. There's no facts behind that.
Yeah, but we said earlier in this exchange, I said that we have this real. How am I going to distinguish between the two? There's a history of the world which really took place. Then there's a history of familiarity with a character, like 53 years of Doctor Who. And they're both histories. One is objective, if you like, history.
Yeah.
And the other is subjective history, in a way. Okay. So I'm saying that if you're messing with either history, whether it is the real world history or the subjective history, you're messing with my history. But I can understand that in Japan, it would be stupid for me to go into a theater to watch a Shakespeare movie and expect to see white actors. How's that going to happen? So when I go in, my expectation is I'm going to see Japanese actors. And when I see Japanese actors, it doesn't bother me. I went in there expecting that. But when you're sitting in the cinema, expecting that I'm going to see a Valkyrie, and they say Valkyrie's coming, and then so up pops Tessa Thompson, I'm gobsmacked. I'm knocked back in my seat. It's like, what am I looking at here? It takes me out of the moment. It doesn't flow seamlessly. Your box ticking exercise causes me issues. Yeah. That's what I don't like about it. And then the box ticking thing, it can be quite subtle. You'd have thought that
don't all organizations need to be mindful of that they're not whitewashing, that they're discarding anyone's background, race, gender, their disabilities. These are things that shouldn't automatically be looked at as something that then excludes that actor from appearing in a movie. I understand what you're saying, but you should be picking talent based on their talent.
Again, you said should. There's no should about it. You could be picking based on talent rather than on box ticking, but that's exactly what I think is the issue. That if you are, I mean, have you ever tried to watch Gunga Ding? Because if you haven't watched it, I don't blame you. And if you tried, I tip my hat to you.
I don't even know what that is.
That's a terrible movie from the 50s.
What's it called?
Gunga Ding.
Gunga Ding.
Gunga and then space DIN, I believe.
Okay.
It had Marion Davis, whose real name, that's his real name. What's his screen name? John Wayne.
Yeah.
It had John Wayne as Genghis Khan, for crying out loud.
Okay.
Oh my God. If you think the Tessa Thompson thing was a debacle, this was like 100 times worse.
Right.
So it just makes the film unwatchable. He opens his mouth and goes, "Oh no!" He runs screaming from the room.
Really?
It's. I mean, just
he played Genghis Khan.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
With his very American, very cowboyish accent and everything.
Oh dear.
He was still John Wayne. I mean, nothing changed.
Yeah. He didn't change in any film he did, let's be honest. He just sounded and acted exactly the same.
And you can imagine because if they did something with his eyes to make it slightly slitted, they give him a bit of a yellow skin. And then it was embarrassing. I say it's unwatchable.
Right.
And then think about that. So
that was wrong casting.
That's that. Even as a small boy,
they just used his name to get bums on seats, as opposed to.
I don't think it worked.
No, indeed. But they're using his reputation in order to try and attract an audience, and clearly,
but the subtle problem is how it affects the new generation. How it affects the new generation. As a young man, or a young boy actually, never mind man. As a young boy, my parents took me to watch Cleopatra. And I just assumed that Cleopatra was white and blue-eyed
Okay.
because she was played by Elizabeth Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a lot older before I found out that no, she was copper skin because her father, I mean, the history of the pharaohs,
yeah.
the pharaohs were probably black.
Okay.
And before people jump up and down and say Tyre is blackwashing the history of the pharaoh, they were the early kingdoms. I mean, the statue at Sana and all this. The nose is broad, the lips are thick. It's really stupid to argue anything else.
Oh,
but when they were conquered, when those pharaohs were conquered by Alexander, he left.
Was Macedonian, was he not?
He was Macedonian, yes. He always had his generals and whatever intermarry with the locals. Now, what color is produced when you add white and black? It's copper.
Hmm.
And they left copper offspring, pharaohs.
Right.
So that was the color of, that's Cleopatra's color. I don't think there's any point arguing about it. I mean, I know people love to argue.
She was always depicted, I didn't think she was depicted white and blue eyes. She was actually.
Well, when I was young, she was. Because, you know,
I think if you look back, the actual film did show her with copper brown colored skin. It wasn't white.
Oh,
yes, she had blue eyes, but then that actually is representative, because if you think about it, if you look at the Middle East,
when I say blue eyes, I'm talking about white and blue eyes.
Right. Okay.
And she wasn't copper at all.
Right. I see.
No. She was this was in the 50s and 60s. There's no way they're going to be copper.
But then, how in the 50s and 60s? I'm assuming in Hollywood as well. How many black and how many people of color were actors that were readily available?
Oh, I don't know who would have been able to
these figures. We don't know who was available.
I can't think of anyone. I can't think of anyone who, from that period, would have been able to star opposite Burton. What was her husband's name?
Oh, Richard Burton.
Yes. Who would you have put opposite Richard Burton, a person of color? I mean, in those days, that was impossible. You're asking for the impossible.
So they were reflecting, although it was an historical look at a production, they were being respectful of what the mood, and that's important too, what the mood in society was. So they were
not about respectful. It's more like kowtowing to it or something.
Well, maybe. So what's the problem now, where the mood in society is more accepting? So now Hollywood.
Now we know what we're doing. To answer your question, now we know what we're doing. Now some people are doing it on purpose and taking a wrecking ball to histories and things. And the children who are watching this, such as the reason I brought up Elizabeth Taylor, is that it misled me for years. I didn't know what I was looking at. I assumed that I was looking at something that was historically accurate. That's what kids do. They don't know that people are messing around with them, with identities and so on and so forth.
They don't know Star Wars is not real. So you're taking it a little bit too.
I always knew that Superman. I wanted to be Superman, but I never actually felt that Superman was real. And I'm talking about when I was tying towels around my neck and zipping around as we all do. Yeah. I didn't think he was real. Come off it. We can tell the difference. But when you look at something you've heard about Cleopatra, you probably learnt about Cleopatra in school. And then you come on the screen. What do you think you're gonna think? So if they bring somebody said made a joke and said, what if Idris Elba plays David Cameron? You've heard about David Cameron in school. You see, and then you go and you see
historical fact. You're now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Cleopatra is also historically accurate. It's not a myth.
Right.
Mark Antony.
So you're saying, therefore, that the films that were brought out in the 50s are totally inaccurate, and they should be redone with the correct skin color of the time, because it was trying to depict an actual historical fact, but they got it wrong. So they got it
so wrong, and those films really are really, really bad. But fortunately, there's enough knowledge now, I think, amongst most people to avoid them altogether. I can't really watch any of those movies now. I really can't. It's
So
just
are you saying, therefore, now that Hollywood is getting race casting, in quotes, wrong?
completely. And the actors, I blame the actors who are taking these roles. This is David Gassi, who played Troy. He's to blame. Why would he even take that role? Why would you take the role? If I'm offered the role of Winston Churchill, I'm going to say no, assuming as an actor.
Yeah.
And because it's an insult to me as well as to what's his name, Winston Churchill. Unless you're going to white me up or something, whitewash me or whatever it's called.
Yeah, well, okay. The actors themselves, they don't care. They're just being paid.
Yeah, right? They're to blame. They're to blame because everybody in every profession.
It's the actor's fault. I think it's if you're applying for a job, which is what they're doing, they're trying to get work, and during the, for actors themselves, they don't know where their next job's going to be. So if they happen to be cast or got an interview for a particular role, they're not going to care if the role should be black, white, green, or whatever.
Everyone needs to take responsibility for their actions, and it's wrong. And wrong is wrong. We can't just say we're hungry, because that's a silly excuse. I need to feed my family. It's a silly excuse. This is why some people hunt animals to extinction. They say, no, I got to feed my family. I need to do it. We all have personal responsibility to act appropriately. And doing this,
you're feeding your family. You're going to do that job. It's the responsibility of the person.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. It's wrong. Wrong is wrong. There's no 2-3 ways about it. Find something else.
Well, wrong is wrong.
Serve coffee and serve coffee or whatever.
All right.
You can always do something that is morally acceptable.
Okay, we're digressing a little bit here.
No, I'm saying that
wrong is always wrong.
And let me tell you what. These are the same people, these same actors. I don't want to just blame him. Who else? Because so far I've only mentioned him, so it's kind of like I'm getting on his case.
No, please don't.
No, I'm saying, so I need to mention other people. I've already mentioned Mace Windu, although we've agreed that might have been miscasting. What was his name again? Samuel L. Jackson. I'm not sure that I shouldn't have taken that role, but that is probably because it was miscast rather than it was blackwashing. And I'll tell you why we shouldn't do this, and black people shouldn't do this, because once the genie has been let out of the bottle, even further than it has. Oh yes, Tessa Thompson should have been taken the Valkyrie. Once the genie has been let out of the bottle, no one is going to be able to see anything when David Tennant plays Shaka Zulu, because right now it is all black people. It is all black people taking on white character roles. But eventually, the shoe is going to have to go onto the other foot, in all fairness, and then white actors are going to start taking black roles. And one day we're going to have, I don't know, give me a famous white actor, anybody you like. We're going to have Daniel Craig playing Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, but that's historical, and you just argued against your point.
No, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that.
I can see your point.
I'm saying that if we accept it
works
now,
both ways.
Exactly, it will work both ways. And then how are we going to feel about that? Yeah, and I'm saying that these same actors are going to be the ones going like, oh, we can get jobs now because it's whitewashing. Well, you blackwashed. So what? So if it's good, if it's sauce for the goose, it's sauce for the gander. So why would you do it?
I think there has to be a happy medium. You have to write it, because at the moment it's skewed. It's not representative to the population that you're representing. So, for instance, in this country, people of color are of a different, they make up a certain percentage of the UK population. So that should be reflected in the television shows, films that are then produced.
Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Well, should. It's more
one word separates
should, replace should, could. Okay, to make it easy.
One word separates the Muslims from the Christians. One word is separating you from me. The Muslims and the Christians quarrel over the word son, the Son of God. That's it. That's the main palaver. And you and I, the problem here is that word should. You're making a film about 1066, the Battle of Agincourt. What do you mean that you could?
Isn't 1066 the Battle of Hastings?
Is it? What was the Battle of Agincourt?
I don't think it was 1066. But anyway, that's a side issue. Yeah, a historical one from 1066 or whatever.
Okay, so this is historical. So Historically accurate for whose time? You can't put 10% of the population being BAME characters there. It doesn't make any flipping sense.
But you
It just
gave
doesn't
the
make any
argument earlier in the show. If you went to Japan and
Yeah.
they were reenacting that same story in history, but they cast all Japanese actors, that's acceptable.
And I'm still saying it, and nothing has changed because that's in Japan. But we're not in Japan, we're in the UK.
Right. But our population is more diverse. We have more people of ethnic minority people in this country that make up a percentage
but
of our
for whose
population.
time? The Japanese can't show up with historically accurate people. They can't do it. They haven't got the numbers. But we have the numbers in the UK. So what's your excuse then? It's box ticking. It's saying should. This is box ticking. It doesn't make any sense. You've got the numbers. You can get a sufficient pool of white actors to play historically accurate white people in a historically accurate setting.
Okay.
And why are you stuffing it with BA? Why is there a single B? Do you think that historically there was one single BA, black or Asian person on the battlefield? There wasn't. So why is there one on my screen? What are you trying to do? Who are you trying to placate? What for? Who's even upset if I watch something where I don't see anyone?
Okay.
If I need
that's
to
a separate argument.
if I
about
need
who's
to see
actually
someone,
affected, but
if I need to see somebody who's black, I need to be worked on. I need to go and work on myself. That just makes me a stupid racist. All I want to see is a darn good movie with great entertainment. That's what I demand. I'm not a box ticker. I'm not sitting there with I'm a feminist. Look, he's a man. He's mansplaining. I'm not. I don't care about all that. In fact, I can't even watch anything nowadays. I was trying to watch something the other day. I was trying to watch something on, I believe it was on Sky Atlantic, called Domina.
Oh yeah, this is the female Cleopatra almost, isn't it? Or someone of the same ilk.
Well, it started off, I read the blurb, and the blurb said this is Julius Caesar's wife or something. And she was
a new character that we've never heard of historically.
She was very influential, and I was like, oh, all right, great. I'd never heard of her. Maybe we missed her. I was surprised
because I thought she was an inaccurate character. It was just made up.
I thought Julius Caesar's wife was called Calpurnia or something. I thought, oh, okay, it's a dominant. Who is this? I'm interested. I'll watch it. In the first 30 seconds, she grabs a young girl, small, slight thing. She grabs a huge stone. She walks up behind some man. She bashes the guy over. It is implied. She bashes the guy over the head, and then she says, "I killed him." You can't. I'm sorry. You can't smack the stone over someone's head and kill them. A young woman like that, the muscle strength and everything. It's ridiculous. It's because you're going to smack him in the back of the head. He's going to grab the back of the skull, yelp, turn around, and then take his anger out by smacking your brains out with the damn thing. Okay? To generate force with a huge rock is not as easy as it seems because your hands are upright and they're coming down about 2 feet, if that. Right? It's not even coming up 2 feet. Just raise your hands up above your head now, audience, everybody. Raise both arms up above your head and bring it down about 90 degrees. Can you see how much force you're generating? It's next to nothing. Now, if they had given her a knife or an axe or a hammer, anything which looks like if it is swung across a wide arc and can gather momentum, I would have watched the rest of it. But if they're so bad in the first 30 seconds that they're doing this woke thing of, all women are Supergirl, all women are Wonder Woman, and all they have to do is to flick their fingernails and beefy men fall over, how is everybody to watch it? And then I was so glad I didn't because I read a review. I went and read a review and it basically said this is woke nonsense and it's not worth watching.
Okay. Can I just jump in here? I think you're taking that a little bit too literally. This is Hollywood, remember. Hollywood have a completely different agenda from reality. In fact, this story it's not even real. It's not based on any historical fact. It's just a story to generate interest. And also, this thing about the stone not killing something, no, that's actually incorrect because if you get a certain point in the back of the skull, just below the line, I'm not going to actually say it on radio, there are positions on the skull that doesn't need a lot of pressure or force, and it can kill you. So I think you're incorrect.
That's easier said than
no, okay. Yes, I give you.
For reasons I don't want to go into. I happen to know what you're talking about.
Hollywood are allowed to have this license because that's what Hollywood do. It's to add drama, it adds effect. I remember a long time ago, Eddie Murphy, okay, real popular actor. Obviously, his light has diminished somewhat in the last year, but he was really, really good. And he said, I love doing films because they make me have superpower. There's no way I can beat up 3 or 4 guys and not get a scratch on me, but that's Hollywood. There's no way for me to open up a door with a credit card after 5 seconds and I can get in any door. But then if there's a fire behind the door, I can't open it for love nor money. I mean, it's just Hollywood. So I think you're taking it a little bit too literal in terms of how these people have the strength, the power, whatever. It's an implication to set her up as powerful. And that's
I thank you for bringing that topic because it allows me to address that issue. I mentioned, I may have mentioned a movie called Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde.
I
have heard of this actually, but
Charlize Theron.
Oh yes, very nice.
Charlize Theron,
very pleasant to look at.
Charlize Theron is a slight woman.
She's quite sly, yes.
And in Atomic Blonde, she beats up beefy men. It is implied that she went through a very tough training,
right? And
that's why she can do it. Also, when she does her moves, she sells the moves. It
what do
looks
you mean by
like
that? Explain.
Okay, when you sell a move, when you hit, obviously actors don't actually hit each other.
No.
But when someone pretends to hit you, or when you pretend to hit someone, 2 of you have to sell it to the audience. The person who's being hit has to look like they were hit.
Yeah.
And the person who throws the punch has to look like they threw the punch.
Yeah.
What Tessa Thompson didn't do for me was that she didn't sell her fighting. She didn't look like she knew how to fight. She offended my senses. And when Charlize Theron threw her punches or did jiu-jitsu or judo and karate and all that sort of thing, she looked like she was really doing it. Right. Now, in real life, of course, you smack. It makes me smile when people punch other people in the face and they don't hold their wrists and jump around in agony. Because when you hit someone really hard in the face, it's like hitting a wall.
Yes,
it really hurts.
Yes, it hurts the perpetrator as well as the recipient.
It hurts the perpetrator, but it hurts the recipient.
No,
where do you ever see that? I've only ever seen one film, and I can't remember the name of the film, unfortunately, where somebody went up behind someone else, a guard, smacked him on the back of the head with a sap, and what the guy did was the guy just held the back of his head and started yelling and jumping around in agony. That's real life. People don't tend to become unconscious at the slightest touch.
Indeed. But then you can, I'm going to digress here. You can bring that forward to football matches. Because if you see a lot of footballers now, they're lightest of touch and they're on the floor rolling.
They're rolling.
Okay.
And that really, I gets me.
That's a separate subject. But it's along the same lines. They've taken their steer from Hollywood. I mean,
but what happens is, when you watch one female beat up a hefty guy, and then you watch another female beat up a hefty guy, you start to get a sense of agenda. This becomes agenda driven. One case of one person, can I come up with a good metaphor? One case of one person doing something, that's okay. But when everybody's doing it, it becomes a trend, and you notice it, and it starts sticking out like a sore thumb. It was like the first Born Identity film when the camera was jumping around all over the place.
Yeah,
it was very uncomfortable, and I don't know why anybody would do that, but it did it, and it added a little bit of sort of MTV style excitement, but I didn't really appreciate it that much. I had to tolerate it rather than enjoy it.
Yeah,
and then suddenly everybody started doing it, and it was no longer fun, to the point where the audience, cinema going audience, started complaining about it.
Yeah,
And now,
because it was
thank
getting too
goodness,
much and messing about with people's.
it was everything.
I agree.
Unfortunately, now I think it's lessening.
It
And
is.
we don't see it so much.
It was just a technique of movie going. It was just to emphasize the fight sequence that is a bit more chaotic and the movement. So the cameras moved along with the punches almost in a different direction. So you couldn't quite see the action, but it amplified a punch and a kick. And so it made it even more, oh, goodness me, you were disorientated with the scene. But you're right, it just actually did it too much in a lot of occasions, which made the enjoyment of the scene less so, because it almost left you with a headache. It's like, oh God, I didn't like that. It made the eyes go funny. Yeah.
So watching Black Widow, as played by, I can't remember her name.
Scarlett Johansson.
Thank you. Watching Black Widow beat up, guys. One case of one woman who we know she can't do it in real life. It looks silly. But one case of one woman doing that is fine. Okay, we give that license. She was trained.
Yes.
And she's very good and yada, yada. But then you got a film called Hannah, where there's a 14-year-old girl doing the same thing.
Okay. But what's her backstory? What's her background?
Oh, her father trained her to be an assassin.
So there is an example.
Well, she's 14, and it's like, okay, we have to remember that the Matildas were beaten by 15-year-old schoolboys. The Matildas being the Australian women's football team.
Yeah, but that's something
that's real life.
The audience here are not aware of. Do you want to explain that now? Do you want to explain that? Because I don't think our audience know what you're talking about. Do you want to clarify what that is?
Well, I'm trying to say that there's a limit to our, what is the word that we use?
Our
ability to suspend our disbelief.
Yeah.
When you go to cinema, you're meant to suspend disbelief. That's why you believe that Superman can fly. Superman can't fly.
Correct.
We have to suspend.
Yeah. There comes a point where you think, nah, that's just too way.
That's what I'm trying to say. When you do with a Hannah, and we're, oh, come on. And then you got lesser. That was a proper Hollywood film with good money behind it, good special effects and everything. And then you got other people who don't even have that kind of money who are doing the same thing. So it starts getting really silly.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by the number of times that you see it, you lose patience with it.
Yeah.
Until it gets to the point where you just go, do like I did with Domina. You just go, no, okay, forget it. I'm through with this.
Okay,
that's the point I've been trying to make. I'm sorry I belabored the point, but that's where I was trying to get to. When you asked about Domina and why did I just go, it's because I've seen so much of this in the past that it's gotten to the point now where I'm not prepared to tolerate it anymore. They're going to have to go back and start making proper films again.
Okay, so let's get back to the point of the show in terms of where Hollywood are maybe doing it too much. They're being colorblind to everything, which they should be more.
And then the Rainbow Coalition thing, we haven't even touched upon it. The Rainbow Coalition thing, where everybody now, if we're watching Star Trek, my beloved Star Trek of my youth.
But that's fictional. They've got license to go anywhere.
Then we've got Star Trek Discovery.
Okay.
And what do we have there? We have two characters who are rainbow, and they actually show kissing. Now, look, I mean, how's that Star Trek? How is that entertainment? Well, how am I supposed to sit there? Why am I even looking at this? Why is that? If we had to make them rainbow, why couldn't they just be rainbow? And that's fine. Or why didn't you make it clear and say, by the way, this because it's on Netflix, I watched it. So this is a Rainbow Coalition Star Trek thing. Just give people the opportunity, the choice of going along with it or not. I can't just put people just.
Can I jump in here?
Please do.
I think this is something that Hollywood need to take on board. Period. Nothing to do with the rainbow characters. I believe it's not appropriate. It's not necessary to have actual kissing, either male, woman, male, female, in 99% of films. There's no need to actually show it. There is no need. Bollywood, which is India, none of their films, none of them show actual kissing. None. And that's male female, which is deemed as natural. They don't show it. They imply it, but they never show it. Hollywood should take a lesson
for quite a long time.
Take a lesson. I know, but Hollywood should take a lesson from this. They don't need to show that. To get the message across, they don't need to show it. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the background of the character. It doesn't matter their color, their race, their anything. If it comes to that side of things, that can be just eliminated. It doesn't need to be there. It can be implied, sure, to get people to think, but it doesn't have to be shown. It doesn't have to be that descriptive. It doesn't add anything. It really doesn't. So that's a lesson, in my opinion, that they should follow. It doesn't need to show it. You can imply it for sure if you think it's.
I think their films would be improved tremendously if they did that.
Yeah, male and female as well. It's not necessary. It doesn't.
Well, I don't like your motivations in saying that, but I'm not going to disagree. But I don't like your motivations because we started off by talking about the rainbow thing. So, if you're going to imply that disapproval of the rainbow thing should somehow also, for the sake of equality and fairness, go onto normal non-rainbow things, I'm really, really against that. It's not the same thing at all.
I want to end. We're getting close to the end of the show here. I do want to end with something. There was an interesting article that I picked up during the research for this show, was about the production of a Tennessee Williams classic.
Oh yes,
called A Streetcar Named Desire. Yeah, Desire.
Is it Desiree? I thought it was Desiree.
I don't know. That's the thing. Is it a streetcar named Desire or Desiree? I don't know.
You might be right. I've just always assumed, without knowing properly, I've always assumed it was called Desire.
Oh, possibly. It's spelt Desire, unless I'm reading it wrong. It was because the fact it was a capital Desire. So was it a name? I don't know.
I always thought it was a streetcar named Desire. Tennessee Williams, was it, or someone?
Okay. Now, the Stanley Kowalski, who's the main character in the film, was Polish.
Of course, yes.
But recently they cast Joseph Black, who is a black character playing the part. Now, this story is quite a renowned story. It's been brought up as a story of a white Polish guy who had this story. Now, nothing about Joseph Black's representation of the character. He cast and did a good job. It's just he was brought across. Everyone who's familiar with the story would know that the character, being Polish, would have been white, but he was cast with a black actor. Now, don't take nothing away from Joseph Black, because he was brilliant in the role. So tick for him in terms of his acting ability. But the question is there as to why was the character cast by a black actor when he was Polish, which Polish people predominantly are white. So are we representing the story as it was intended, or are we now just doing this colorblind casting, which is in essence a good thing, but are we now to the point where this is getting silly? And it goes back to your original argument. If you're now casting a program, a depiction of something in historical which is classed incorrectly, then how do we go about it? Is this another example of this very same thing?
I disagree with you that colorblind casting is a good thing. I don't think it is. I think what you're trying to say is that where appropriate, color shouldn't matter. But you didn't put that all important part in where appropriate.
Yes.
I see. Without it, it says something else. Then the sentence which color shouldn't matter, that says something else. It's a bit like feminist fake argument that men and women are equal. That's missing something. That is, men and women should be equal under the law, because men and women are definitely not equal. And in the same way, it should be, I think, colorblind casting is a good thing for appropriate characters. Now, is Stanley Kowalski an appropriate character? That you can now sit down and talk about it objectively and reasonably. What are you trying to do? Where are you? Which country is this? We're in the America. Was it America or was it here? Was it here in the UK? The new. Okay, I thought it was BBC production. So
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, we're in the UK. It's not an appropriate thing if you got access to white actors. I'm not really familiar with.
It was just an example. I mean,
it's a very good example because it shows how complex this issue is. I'm not even trying to pretend that there's an easy answer and that Tayo's easy answer is this. I don't think it's that easy. How much? Because as you see, A Streetcar Named Desire, that in my memory was a film, and I don't think it was called A Streetcar Named Desire. It might have been called that, but that was played by Marlon Brando. At one point.
You could be right, actually.
And I can't remember the name.
That was cast a long time ago.
Yes, what I'm trying to say is that he wasn't Polish, but I'm not really sure how important it is that the character is Polish. I think it is far more important that the character is a blue-collar worker.
Right. So in that case, then there is no harm.
So actually, for me, without knowing,
Black being cast in this part,
it didn't bug me. It didn't bug me that Marlon Brando wasn't the classical Pole, so to speak. He seemed greasy. I remember he did a very good job. He was really more like Italian than anything else.
Indeed, I did think that. So I didn't expect he was Polish.
And of course, no disrespect to my Italian colleague.
None taken.
You see? So when you ask the question, is this appropriate? I think it goes a long way towards answering the question whether it's blackwashing or not. Because if it doesn't matter, if there's nothing cultural there, if it doesn't have to be a Pole in 1946, if you bring it forward to a blue collared worker in 2020, it doesn't matter.
I think I don't know whether he actually did keep the same name as Stanley Kowalski.
Well, there are obviously for reasons of slavery and so on and so forth. There are black people in America with very odd surnames. So it's entirely possible.
Absolutely fine. Okay, so keeping historical accuracy, that wouldn't matter in this case because he wasn't explicitly said to be white. So yes, in this case, it's absolutely fine. So I thought that was an interesting example of it. In summary, do you want to end with a final point on this subject?
Woke Hollywood is eating itself. It's destroying itself. Many of them woke films are failing at the box office. For myself, there's so much wokeness on television that they've done the near impossible and they've driven me away from that medium. And it can't be a good thing if more and more of us watch less and less television. I mean, the Oscars failed. The Golden Globes failed. How many
Globes is failing purely because of past attitudes, and there's a bit of an uprising against it, isn't there?
Well, and what about the Oscars? Same thing. These people are just fed up with all this nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering. Someone made me laugh out loud. Is some chap on YouTube, and he said, "Is there some kind of super dodgy tax thing that they're doing, that Hollywood is doing, where losing money is making them money?" So because when you make a woke movie, you know it's going to fail, and you still go and blow 80 million on it.
Wow.
It's like,
I think, yeah, that's a separate subject. So
and one last point. Are you aware that the stimulus package in America actually puts money into Hollywood?
I wasn't aware of that.
Anyway, right, let's move on. As we've reached the end of the show, you, the listeners, can send in your comments and feedbacks about what we've been discussing on our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/Tony with a Y, and Tayo, Tayo. If you leave any comments or questions on the Facebook page, Tayo and I we'll do our very best to try and answer these questions on a subsequent show or even live on air. Now, obviously, you can listen to the show on 105.5 FM, or if you prefer, we're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other leading audio platforms. I can't name them all. We are everywhere. If you want to find the show, just do a search for the TNT Talk Show on any of these platforms, and we will pop up. Teo, do you want to add that final piece if our guests leave a note on our site?
If you decide to leave a comment on our Facebook page, we will read it almost straight away. And if it causes rage, apoplexy, stress, and extreme annoyance, guess what? We'll probably have you on the show because that's the kind of show we are.
Yes, indeed. And please, but I thank you, listeners, again for tuning in. And Teo and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.